What is going on, all you GBA fans? It's your boy Aaron2420, and I am bringing you week 1 of the weekly transactions. Now, we only have one transaction this week, and I think it's personally for good reason, and that's because a lot of coaches are probably still getting used to their drafts and figuring out what does work and what they need to fix. So that's definitely completely understandable, though in the case of the San Jose Sharpedos, coached by Tom, I think it was a very worthwhile use of a week 1 transaction, as they had dropped Rabombi and picked up Gardevoir. Now, a few things from Tom before I get into my opinions. One of the things that Tom mentions is while slower, it doesn't share weaknesses from Lurantis, which was his main concern, because Rabombi does share a poison, fire, and flying weakness with Lurantis, and the fact that it is also hazard weak, so you don't need hazard removal or setup for Gardevoir to be effective, whereas with the Rabombi, you need both of those. It's kind of like running a Zard X with Stealth Rocks on your side of the field. It's very hard to make it very effective and to actually come in and set up and sweep. But Gardevoir doesn't really rely on setup or hazard removal, as it's only neutral to rocks. Hazards don't really bother it too much, and also the fact that you can run it in many different ways is not just a setup user. You can run it Scarf, you run it Choice, you run it Bulky. The only flaw that he does point out, and I can kind of see it, but it's not as big as he thinks in my opinion, he says that his fastest mon is now base 115 speed, whereas Rabombi offered a nice 124 speed, and it's the only Pokemon to actually reach there, so it forces Pokemon like Weavile to have to run Jolly, which otherwise Rabombi could just come in and Bug Buzz, and then Weavile would be dead. But I personally don't think it's as big of a deal as Tom might think it is, since his base 115 mons are both Azelf and Zygarde 10%, so Zygarde 10% gets priority and Dragon Dance, so it has a way of increasing its speed stat. Also, he has Scarf users such as Gardevoir that can reach above base 145 if he's running at max speed, so that is still not really as big of a problem as he might think. Another thing that Tom points out is he has a Psychic Fairy type now, which is a very unique type to check, and I agree 100% because you don't really have too many Psychic Fairies. In fact, I think in the format, Gardevoir is the only one that's legal. So you have a Psychic Fairy type now, Tom, and it has a very wide range of coverage options such as Focus Blast and Thunderbolt and Shadow Ball, which is very great coverage, especially because it can handle Steel types, which would otherwise bother it. Its stab options in Psychic and Psyshock allow it to handle Poison types, which would otherwise handle it pretty well. It gets Shadow Ball for Ghost types, which again would otherwise handle it. So I personally think this is a fantastic trade for Tom. Normally, I would try and point out the downsides, but I don't really see any downsides with this pick. It feels like it fits his team perfectly. It also gives him another Wish user outside of Vaporeon, so he doesn't have to run Wish on Vaporeon every week to get up walls such as Porygon 2. Even though Porygon 2 doesn't really need a Wish since it has Recover, but especially things like Celesteela and Nidoqueen, who otherwise rely on Celesteela's Leech Seed. Another thing is it gets Healing Wish, so besides Azelf, it's his only mon to have it, and Azelf is more likely than not just going to be an offensive mon. So Gardevoir can always be a Healing Wish user or a Heal Bill user to clear status on his team, and with Healing Wish, he can not only get any Pokemon up to full, which is much better in my opinion on Gardevoir, because there's a low HP stat, so it's going to be a little ineffective to pass a Wish, though it still is better than nothing. But he has Healing Wish, which can get any mon regardless of its HP up to full and cure its status before taking hazards damage. So if a mon, like let's say Incineroar, is at 5%, if I Healing Wish into that, it's going to take the rocks damage after I get it up. So when Incineroar would normally be death fodder for Tom, he can get it up to full HP and then let it take hazards damage and still spam off a couple more Flare Blitzes before it dies. So I personally think it's a fantastic pick for Tom. Offers him another very amazing special attacker. So Gardevoir I feel like is a personally great trade for Tom. That's it for this week of transactions. If you guys enjoyed, make sure to leave a like. Tell me your thoughts in the comments below on Tom's transaction. I'd love to hear if either him or I are missing something that you guys might notice. And that's all for now. So until next time, peace out.